Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing. I'm your host, Glenn Thayer, and today we're going to discuss website performance. I have here with me the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young, and the internet marketing guru, Dennis McCarthy. Hi, guys.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Glenn.
Well, we know the websites have to perform. Obviously, that's the reason that we have them. So how exactly do we define website performance, and where should we start the discussion?
Well, I'd like people to think about website performance in a new way, and I'd like them to think about website ROI. Basically, taking any kind of result that you want to see from your website and measuring it against your investment. Now, keep in mind that it may not be directly related to your investment, but it somehow should be related to the sales or return you're going to see from this website. And one of the keys is to be patient as you watch these things develop. Now, we've talked about our 4-part process and the 4 steps to marketing success online. This is part 4 of those 4 steps. So if you go back and study steps 1, 2, and 3, which is defining your strategy, developing and designing your website, and then driving traffic. Well, the final step is measuring all of that and making changes so that you're maximizing ROI. So really, we define it as getting results that can be measured against website ROI.
Well, let's talk about return on investment just for a second here with your website. Now, I'm going to make an assumption. We're talking about the entire ball of wax, all the way from the creative to the tracking to the marketing, all of that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And you have to measure it against your time spent on this project, and you have to measure it against your entire marketing budget and where people are putting their energy. So yeah, ROI is huge, but the bottom line is website performance is your measure of ROI. And ROI should be actually very good on the web because you can track everything, and if you're putting money into it, you should see a return.
Well, what type of benchmarks can somebody put in to be able to measure that?
Well, that's a good point because unless you have goals for your site, you can't measure the ROI. And most companies, frankly, just put a site up there and cross their fingers. They don't set goals. So we think it's critical to have goals for your website. And the nice thing is that everything that happens online can be tracked. Well, there's so many ways you can track activity on your site, and you should have goals for those things.
Well, many people don't have baselines. They don't even know where they're beginning. They don't know how many people are coming to the site to begin with. So the establishing the baselines is as important as the establishment of the goals.
So would that be a good thing with your baselines? Let's say, should you start with monthly goals as far as having a baseline? So obviously you can kind of take the pulse of where you're at now and then base your goals on that. What do you think about monthly?
Well, the thing about the internet business in general is the more reliant you are on your website for your core business fundamentals and for your core marketing. For example, if you're an online store, you're going to watch this stuff daily. But if you're, most middle-of-the-road companies should be doing it monthly. And most of the folks we meet with get plenty of value in monthly meetings and can make those changes then, and we can review it the next month. But the things you want to look for are things like, how many visitors are coming to the site, what percentage of those visitors are converting into something that you planned as a conversion, what kind of sales then are you getting from those conversions, and just tracking all these key fundamental things.
We create a simple spreadsheet that we use. It's like 9 columns across, and it's taking a look at the funnel from the number of visitors to where they came from. Referrals, search engines, paid traffic, and then we look at the conversion column and all the different forms of conversion that are available on your website. That could be filling out a form, that could be sending an email, that could be contacting an 800 number, which should be a unique 800 number. So we create this simple spreadsheet and we track those metrics from month to month, and it gives you just a snapshot of how well the site's doing in terms of ROI.
Now, there's something interesting here because we talk about monthly goals here. Now, as far as budgeting, obviously we know that most websites, if they're done correctly, they're going to spend the majority of their money up front in the creation and the design and the implementation, getting it all done. And then the rest of it, theoretically, and tell me if I'm wrong here, that it should just be maintenance, doing those minor tweaks on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement to make, that most of your cost is on the initial launch on the new design.
Although, I don't know.
But what's interesting about this, though, is that it really, maybe the question should be a little different, and the question should be, should your costs stop after you launch? Because most companies, once they launch the site, they put very little into it after that. And the question really is that you've got to continue to put budget in.
Launching the site and thinking that you're done is a really mistaken notion. You got to be constantly looking at the metrics, and if there are design modifications that can be made along the way that would make the site more effective and convert better, those should be made. I think every website should be thought of as organic, as kind of a living laboratory of marketing and sales.
Right, and the percent that you spend really it depends on your business model. And once the more you are an online business, a pure online business, the more you're going to spend. You have 100% of your marketing budget if you're an online business. And
drawing traffic to the site, you have to consider the expense of drawing traffic to the site regularly.
That's right. A lot of companies don't. A lot of companies do not do that. They don't even set a budget for drawing traffic. It's kind of a build it and they will come. That's still very much in place. I would say if I had to throw some numbers out with the clients we work with, if you spend, say you're a $5 million business. I would think that if you're middle of the road, you use the web to generate leads at least, you need to be budgeting anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month to do ongoing maintenance, drive traffic, and keep the site where it needs to be to meet your monthly goals.
So that would be pretty fair to say. So it's not just build it and cross your fingers that you get traffic.
No, and what's interesting about the web is that a lot of people do that and get traffic and get business, but their ROI can improve so much more if they follow some of these guidelines.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of new sites that we look at and they're spending a bunch of money on traffic and paying for advertisements and all of that. And we go look at the website and the destination that all these ads is pointing to is not a good conversion destination at all. People are just leaving. We've seen websites where 90% of the paid traffic bounces, which means they leave the page immediately. They didn't belong there in the first place.
So, let's talk about that as far as goals. We talk about tracking. So, for the stats, let's talk about stats. What's important about them?
Well, this is how you measure everything is with the stats. And we've got a podcast just devoted to stats, but Google Analytics is really the way to go. And just spend some time on google.com and figure out how to run Google Analytics. And then once you've mastered how that works, then set up your goals into user paths that you'd like to see and into different types of conversions. And then you can start to watch what the stats do and how they compare to the end result on the website, whatever these people are doing. Like Dennis mentioned, a lot of people just come to the homepage and leave. Well, you've got to get a handle on why they're leaving. You've got to redesign the site and then get the right kind of traffic in. And then stats tell you the picture. They tell you the story of what's happening.
Now, could that also be the fact that when Dennis had mentioned, they bounce off the first page because they shouldn't even be there? Is that just something that when they're doing paid advertising or pay-per-click, they're targeting the wrong keyword or the wrong audience?
Usually they're targeting too broad of an audience. Somebody will buy the term management training, and what they really sell is help with effective meetings. They should be buying the term effective meetings and not the much more broad term management training, because they're drawing in. The key with any website is not to bring in zillions of people. The key is to bring in your target market. It's a big difference.
Yeah, and I think it's real important that a lot of you've got to know in the big sense if you're going after a wholesale or a retail market, because there will always be tons of consumer searches. We're working with a client now that does SAP training, and their client is a corporation.
And what is SAP training, just for our listeners out there?
It's a high-tech form of training around computer systems and computer databases and things like that. So there are a lot of people looking for SAP training. They're just individuals, and they'll spend a couple $100 or something on a training course, but their market is the corporations that need company-wide training. It's a very different type of web lead. But the searches are going to be 10 to 1, consumer-focused. The little guy, right?
Right.
And they want the big guy. So if you get the little guy on the website, well, he's going to leave pretty quickly when he realizes, he's not going to spend $100,000 for training.
And the key with your ads in Google, if you have a paid program in a situation like that, your key is to have the ads weed out those people. You almost want to say, if you're just an individual, don't come to this website and make us pay for this click. But, you could word it something like corporate training for SAP for your whole company, things like that, to weed out the individuals.
Well, let's talk a little about sales funnels, because you talk about weeding out the individuals, and I think that leads us into the sales funnel aspect of a website. How should that be developed? I mean, obviously, we're talking about UserPass guiding a user through the website effectively where you want them to go. Well, obviously, when you've identified who your target market is and your target prospect is now on the website, how should you use the sales funnel and the user path? How should you be looking at that?
First of all, the website needs to be simple. Too many people have extremely complex websites with hundreds of different things the users can do. If you simplify your website, you'll be able to create only a half dozen paths at the most, and a website that's no more than 2 levels, 3 levels deep. And once you have a simplified website, it becomes easier to create offers that lead to conversions, and that really helps with the analysis of the site and the user experience at the same time.
And I think you should plan this out. I mean, you should be able to tell me, if I called your company and said, what do you want users to do on your website? You should be able to tell me directly. I want users to come to the website. I want them to click on services. I want them to read about the service that we offer, and I want them to contact us.
Right. And
hire us.
That's right. Or hire us. And so that should be tracked. You should be able to watch that happening on the site.
The other half of that coin is what does your target market want? With the SAP training, if you finally get the SAP training director on your site, what is that guy looking for? And are you providing it? If you are, you'll probably be creating relationships on that website.
That's right. And what we found at Intuitive Websites over the years is that people come to our website, they click on the services, and they check out the services, but we get a lot of conversions from our resources. They go to the resources and they read an article, and they say, I really like this article. I want to learn more about this, and they contact us.
So would it be fair to say, is we keep talking about prospects, by the same token, should your homepage reflect so much what you do that you eliminate people who are not prospects? I know that's an opposite way of looking at it, but obviously, it's almost like a disqualification, where you want to make sure that those people are clear when they go on there that your target clientele, your target prospect, and your target market goes, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is what I'm looking for. And by the same token, somebody who accidentally gets on your website or thinks they're looking for something automatically knows, okay, this isn't what I'm looking for, and they can bounce off.
You'll always get students, and you'll always get individuals looking for things.
People from Singapore and Bangladesh.
That's right. But I think the focus is, if you're going to put money into driving traffic, you want to get the right kind of traffic. And I think that's our point, is that that if you're going to, in the ads that you write, in pay-per-click, in the terms that you go after with your SEO, you want to get the right kind of traffic.
And that's search engine optimization for those of you listening that weren't sure and missed the first 24 podcasts.
That's right.
You should be able to answer this question at all times. People are coming to our website on what search terms, and based on a term-by-term basis, what is their behavior when they get to the site? And if you can answer those 2 questions, you can really make sure that your site is providing the kind of content that's needed and that your target market is being served on that site. If you see a search term that a lot of people are coming in on and there's just nothing there for them, they're going to bounce. So the analysis of the term and the behavior based on the inbound term is a really important analysis to have a handle on.
Well, we're talking about tracking, and obviously the whole point of the website is to get conversions. How exactly does the conversion tracking work?
Well, conversion tracking is a very interesting science, and and I think I can make a point here. If you're good at conversion tracking, you're going to be successful online. I mean, would you agree with that, Dennis? Because if you know what you're looking for, then you can set up the parameters to find that. And I think that's probably the most important thing for you to do, is to start analyzing your site for conversion. So many people just analyze the site for visitors. But let's start looking at what the visitors do on the website, where they go, where they bail out, and then track that against your goals. And then you've got to make modifications to the site so that they go where you want them to go, and they get the kind of content they want to see. Now, the nice thing about the web is you can experiment with different offers, experiment with different paths, and watch it on a weekly or monthly basis. And obviously, forms and contact information are going to be critical in conversion tracking. Forms and contact information have to be tied to any kind of important content, so that you can track when they actually do contact you. And in fact, in our next podcast, we're going to do a podcast just on conversions and website conversions and how they happen.
Now, just one other thing with forms and contact information, to drive the point home once again, and just so I'm clear, I don't miss anything, make sure your phone number is on every single page that you have.
Contact information on every page.
A unique phone number. Very important.
And keep in mind, too, just how important content is in driving conversions. Think of it this way. A user on your website will finally read something that they really like, and then they're going to contact you or they're going to buy that product.
Well, let's talk about website updates, because obviously we talked about this being an ongoing process. How do you work with conversion tracking with website updates?
Well, one of my favorite things to say is that websites are always under construction. If you remember in the old days of the web, there used to be the guy with the hammer that was hitting on a rock or whatever, saying, our website's under construction, come back, when we're done. Websites are always under construction.
One quick thing on this with the always under construction. What is your thought on people who have their websites up and you go to a link and it says, come back later, we're under construction?
Well, that link shouldn't be there. Really, think about it. There's no reason for the link to be there. There's no content there. It's just laziness. It's just the fact that people get the site up, they get it off their plate, and they don't finish it. It's better to have even a couple bullet items of content and then say, contact us for more information, than to have nothing there.
Nowadays, a lot of those sites are experimental tracking sites where people are testing the volume of keywords and the performance of certain keywords, and they actually put up these non-sites to do some of that experimentation.
Wow.
And waste people's time. One of the places that people get into trouble on websites is when they have a section called news or current events or what's happening recently, because they don't make the time to stay up with that, and so they have the link there, and so they're either going to have something that says come back when we have some news updates, or they're going to have news that's 18 months old and stuff. So that's be careful when you set up your site that you have content for all your links.
At the very least, don't date it. If you're gonna update it every 6 months, don't put a date last year on as a byline.
Now, would that also mean for blogs? If you have a blog on your website, make sure you're at least blogging once a week.
Yeah, blogs. If you're going to have a blog, you've got to stay up on it on a regular basis.
That's one of my pet peeves. And as soon as you mention blog, you get that deer in the headlights look. It's, oh no, who's going to write all that? It's not that hard. And every company should have a blog who's got any kind of interesting industry. And you just got to assign maybe half a dozen people to contribute 2-3 times a week, and you'll have a great traffic drawer.
And I know, those companies that don't have a blog, they have other marketing things that take place every week. They do their regular mailers or their regular emails or their sales calls. They just have to define someone to take care of that task.
And I know that that's fodder for another podcast.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the action items here, because we know that we end every podcast, as our loyal listeners understand, every podcast ends with an action item plan. So what are the key action items for the listener this week?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is identify the key people that are going to work on this website and marking it, and the folks that are going to measure and track and are responsible for website performance, and have regular meetings with these people. Just get together in a room and start talking about what needs to be done. Set goals for the site around unique visitors and conversions and sales and ROI. Make sure you've got to have Google Analytics. You're really not serious about the web until you're set up on Google Analytics, and review these stats. Learn from Google. Google wants you to really understand analytics because they want you to set up a pay-per-click program, and so look at pay-per-click programs and search engine placement and study all those stats. From these meetings, then will come your action steps. Delegate those things out and make this thing happen, and then. One thing that we're going to talk about in future podcasts as well is train your sales team to handle web leads. As you start to generate web conversions and web leads, your sales team needs to know how to handle that.
I'd like to add one thing.
Yes, Dennis.
The subject of this podcast is performance, and you just have to think of your website as fluid and ever-changing, and nothing is cast in stone. If you're concerned about performance at all, then change the navigation, change the design, use different colors, different graphics, put different offers up there until you find the things that work and stick with them.
Wonderful. You heard it, folks. This has been the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, and for more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitivewebsites.com.